Welcome back to 88.1 The Berg, your news central. My new guest is an American academic who works as a geology professor at Central Washington University. Outside of his work within the university, he's known for his online videos covering the geology of the northwestern United States and his series Nick on the Rocks. And I'm excited to add, he's my first guest with his own wiki page, which made my introduction so easy, and my first guest with an Emmy. So we have got Professor Nick Zentner with us today. How are you?
Laynie, I'm great. That person sounds fascinating. I'm interested to learn more about him. But to be honest, I'm here for you. I mean, you're doing a lot of things here at the radio station, and so I normally decline these things, but I'm here because I know you're doing a lot of really good stuff. Give me a couple of examples of things you've been doing in the last 2 months.
Oh boy, well, we just had our interview with President Wolpart not too long ago.
Mm-hmm.
We had Mayor Nancy Lilliquist in here.
You did.
Just, I've been working on connecting Central community with, the city of Ellensburg.
That seems like an obvious thing to do, but I've been here a long time, and I know that there are miles to go with that sort of thing. So if that's your instinct to just kind of naturally do that, good for you. Keep it going.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Well, could you tell us a little bit about yourself, like where you're from and what brought you and your family to Ellensburg?
I grew up in Wisconsin. I had no interest in geology. I wasn't even sure I wanted to go to college. I was just kind of into sports and my friends, and that was about it. And then I went to the University of Wisconsin in Madison, and I kind of stumbled into geology by accident, like most geologists do. Mm-hmm. And once I kind of got the bug, I knew that I wanted to be out here someplace. And so after I finished all of my schooling, I was very careful to find a place that had great geology, had a small university, and this place is pretty easy to convince anybody that it's a good place to be. So we've been here for 30 years, my wife and I, and we've raised 3 boys here, and it's been a great place for sure.
Mm-hmm. What makes the geology of the Northwest so special?
Well, I could go on, but I'll just give you 3 sentences. How about that? You can keep me to that. Maybe it's just one run-on sentence. There's about everything you can imagine, both in the past and in the present and even in the future, involving Washington. So we're talking about volcanic hazards. The next time Rainier erupts, we're talking about magnitude 9 earthquakes out at the coast of Washington. Those are the 2 most pressing kind of public safety type of things. And then there's all these amazing stories safely tucked in the past, like Ice Age floods and great lavas and glacial till and western Washington under 3 miles of ice, et cetera, et cetera. So it's everything. And, there's other places out here in the West that have some good geology, but we really have won the sweepstakes as far as all these things in one place.
Well, very cool. So we have to talk about the Ellensburg Blue Agate. Is that how you pronounce it?
That is.
Okay, so I've heard this is the 3rd rarest gemstone found around the world. And my question for you is Kittitas County really the only area you can find this rock? And can normal people, like, rock hound and find Blue Agate? Is it worth, trying to find this Blue Agate, this mystery rock? Depends
on who you talk to. I just gave that lecture today. I'm just wrapped up Geology 101, and we have always the last day of class. We talk about Ellensburg Blue Agates. So, many people are not that interested in geology because it's just a bunch of science stuff. But in the case of gold or blue agates, suddenly everybody's ears perk up because they can make some jewelry, they can go out and find it for themselves, etc. So where did you grow up, Laynie?
Vancouver, Washington.
So had you heard about the Ellensburg Blue before you moved here?
Not a whole lot, no. I didn't know it was as big of a deal until, funny story, a few Valentine's Days ago, one of my roommates got a Blue Agate ring. And she's a local from, like, Yakima area. Yep. And so it was this big deal, and I was curious about it, and apparently it's a bigger deal than I knew it was. So...
Well, it's exciting for me because we still don't know exactly why the blue agates formed, when they did, and where they did. But to answer your question, there are other places in the world that have blue agates. It's not like we have the only blue agate ever. But it is an amazing thing where if you know where to look, you're literally just walking and then looking down and finding this blue thing, and you have a chance of finding this thing that's worth thousands of dollars, and then you take it to a jewelry shop in Tacoma or something, and they make a beautiful pendant out of it, or a necklace or a ring. So it's one of the few things in my world that a ton of different kinds of people are very interested in, and I'm looking for ways to connect the academic world with the real world, and that's one way to do it.
Have you ever found blue agate?
I have, but I got to confess, I'm not that into it, man. I don't think they're that cool personally, and I'm not a jewelry person, I guess, in general. But yeah, there is this one section of public land, like a mile by a mile, and that's a big deal because most everything else is private land, so you can't really just go start walking around. But there is one square mile worth of public land that I was tipped off to about 10 years ago, and I've been emailing people. I don't know, I've been sending hundreds of people out there every year, and I send them, I email them the directions, and I say, well, if you find a good blue, you send a photo to me, and they do. So there's still blue agates to be found out there. But
that's very cool.
Yeah.
I've always been interested in that.
Well, okay, what are you doing this weekend? We'll just send you out there. It's not that far away.
I don't know if I would have the luck to find it, and I don't know if I'd be like, I don't know. It sounds like a good idea. I've heard of some of my friends doing it for like a date night. Like, oh, let's go find some blue agate.
Oh, my God. Oh, wow. All right. Well, there's a date. Are you still doing your dating show?
Oh, funny story. From my dating show, I was successful. Would you believe it or not? One of my co-hosts.
No, I believe it.
So, yeah, we've been
One
dating
of your co-hosts? Oh, you're...
I know, right?
Oh, seriously. Wow.
Yep.
Okay. So you've been together how long?
It's got to be 9 months now.
Congratulations.
Thank you. All right, I want to talk about Nick on the Rocks, your show that won a Northwest Emmy. Where did you get the idea for that, and how did you get it on air?
Well, all these have long-winded answers, but let's think of your audience who doesn't really care that much.
Tell us a little bit about what it is.
Yes. It's so 15 years ago, I started just doing things for the public. It just felt like a good idea. I knew there was an audience there. And so I started doing things for YouTube. I gave lectures downtown, and I had them filmed and then put them on YouTube, and there was a lot of audience, including the Ellensburg Blue Agate thing. Linda Schockler, who has just announced her retirement from Central, has been here about 10 years, and she showed up about 10 years ago, and people started saying, hey, you got that geology guy doing all those lectures and things, he's really kind of putting a public face on the university. And she said, what's this about? And so pretty quickly after that, she saw the potential to market this university by using me, basically. And so she had this idea to create this public television show called Nick on the Rocks.
Genius name.
Yeah, yeah. It took me a while to warm up to it, but I get, it does work. People do remember that. And so she started working with KCTS in Seattle and said, how are we going to figure this out? We can make these programs for you. And they said, well, I'm not sure. This is what we want, but how about you make 5-minute programs that we can air right before the top of the hour, And so we have a market for that. And so Linda said, that sounds good. And so these episodes of Nick on the Rocks are literally 5 minutes long. Like I'm basically clearing my throat and the thing's done. Like, as a person who normally gives an hour lecture, there's no real detailed content being delivered, but there's drone photography, there's sweeping vistas, there's editing by Chris Smart, who's worked here for many years, and so I think it's most of the work of Chris Smart that got this attention for the Emmy Award stuff. But it's been fun, and it's just a portion of what I've been doing here at Central.
And where did that stream? So I know you had the YouTube as well.
Yeah.
Was it on any other platforms, or was it just YouTube?
Well, it gets a little confusing there. You have to, when you do stuff for PBS, you sign all sorts of stuff saying, it's yours and yours alone. And then that was successful. So that's mainly the PBS station in Seattle, which also airs up in British Columbia. And then Linda said, well, I think there's a market for these other places, and so we're going to work out agreements with Oregon Public Broadcasting and then Spokane PBS. And so now these little episodes are being shown across the region. They do exist on YouTube, but I don't think PBS does a very good job with YouTube personally. So it's almost like an afterthought. They just toss these things on YouTube. But the thing that's taken most of my interest in the last 2 years since the beginning of the pandemic is my own YouTube channel. So that's totally separate, and it gets sometimes confused with people who are kind of quote-unquote consuming what I'm doing. But yeah, I freaked out. I suddenly had all these public talks canceled at the beginning of the lockdown 2 years ago, and I'm like, what am I going to do? And so I started live streaming from my backyard, essentially. And so that's...
Is that Nick from home?
Yeah. Oh, wow. Look at you.
Oh, I did
Look
my
at
research.
you. Wow.
Was that during the pandemic just kind of a response to not being able to do those kinds of lectures?
Yes. So the PBS thing stopped. I was, at that point, was traveling around the Northwest and giving these public talks in these auditoriums. It was all kind of cumbersome and complicated to arrange all these things. And I just used my phone and realized how easy it was to live stream. You were just talking about live streaming.
Exactly. We're live streamed right now.
Yeah, yeah. So that world, I didn't know anything. So I'm kind of half doing some geology, but also half just learning from the audience how to turn the thing on and how to get a microphone and how to get wind noise down and everything else. And that has really blossomed where now I'm live streaming from my classroom, and there's a worldwide audience just sitting in on geology classes I'm teaching here.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's been an organic thing for sure, and I just don't know where it will continue, but it's been a real kick in the pants. And so to see you doing similar things like this here, I don't know if you get a good sense of how wide your audience is, but it's, and I purposely don't really look at a lot of those analytics, but a lot of folks are missing the boat, man. This audience can be built from scratch, and the audience can be incredibly wide, and it just takes a little gardening of a spot just to keep it going, keep it watered.
And we have to talk about your awards, because doing my research, it sounds like you're pretty big time, Nick. In 2015, you won the James Shea Award presented by the National Association of Geoscience Teachers, and a Northwest Emmy Award by the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences. That is a mouthful. So I've got to know, where do you keep your Emmy?
Oh, good Lord. See,
is it as surprisingly heavy as everyone says it is?
Well, we can walk across to the building. I'll let you hold it. Well, two things to say. First of all, thank you for doing your homework. That's refreshing. I've kind of stopped doing these interviews because I realize that people have seen like 2 minutes of one thing, and then I'm desperately trying to get them to watch, and they don't even have any much interest in. So good job by you. I also decline these things because I think the tone is just wrong. Like anytime you give any sort of public talk or a live stream or anything, quite often people in this academic world don't get the fact that anytime you talk about titles or awards or recognition of any sort, you're just building a wall between you and the audience.
Right.
They're not on campus. They don't give a shit where you went to school and what letters are behind your name. So I'll answer your question, but I think you're hearing that the less talk of all this recognition, generally the better. And so yes, the Emmy Awards there's two of them, and they were in a box for a few months, and then my wife said, well, come on, you should have them out somewhere. So I brought one into my office, and it's on my shelf and kind of tucked in the corner, and another one it's at home. But yeah, they don't chintz on making them. That was impressive, I got to say. But I think it was more for the glossy production values of the shows than than my part, really.
Well, could you tell us a little bit about the geology department here at Central and why CW students should study geology?
I like that question better, thank you. Well, it's interesting you ask that because I'm not teaching as much spring quarter, and I've been having some talks with the people in my geology department, and they're like, yeah, okay, so you got a lot going on with this YouTube thing, but it's all pretty much just you, right? I'm paraphrasing now, and I'm like, yeah. They say, well, I don't know how we're going to do with enrollments next year. How about you showcase our department a little bit? And how about you kind of combine your little folksy solo stuff with us? And so I have plans to make a whole series of videos this spring, pretty much just, I can see Discovery Hall right through your window here, right across the way, inside the building, outside of the building. And I think it's a whole new way to recruit. So, we've always just had the old school model of, if we can get a kid to take 101, then we'll teach them how cool geology is, and then we'll just try to recruit them to then take Geology 201 or whatever.
Right.
And that's still a fair way to think about it. But again, YouTube and other things, you can draw people in and get them to come here because they already know a bunch of stuff of geology without even setting foot on campus. So my short answer is we have, 20 graduate students. We have 80 undergraduate majors. We have 15 full-time professors doing really interesting research in this building that's still just 5 years old. So we have all this fancy equipment like you have in this studio. We have fancy equipment as well that I don't even know what most of it does. That's how exotic it is. But there's amazing opportunities to get one-on-one attention from very accomplished academic, scientific / people. And that's not an opportunity at many other schools. And if you go to the UW, for instance, there's not a whole lot of attention given to the undergraduates. And if you go to a tiny school, there's not much equipment, or there's maybe someone who's just teaching and not doing research. So we feel like we're the Goldilocks of geology departments, Laynie, and we're just right. We're just right.
So where does your passion for teaching come from?
Thank you. Excellent questions. Instead of having a mentor and just basically copying somebody, like, how about you? Like, what got you interested in radio, and was there an influential person that you're trying to kind of emulate?
I think growing up watching, I originally came to the station to do sports broadcasting. And so growing up watching, like, the Aaron Andrews. I was like, I want to be Aaron Andrews when I grow up. And I would say that was kind of an influence into, and it transitioned into other things like news and these Wildcat 101s that I love doing. But I definitely started with some influential people on TV.
Okay. Yeah, well, I think many people have that view. They see something and they go, that would be cool to do that. I'm going to do whatever I need to do to kind of become that. In my case, it's not that. And this is, I got to pick the right tone here. But generally, I have found professors to, I think of professors mostly being kind of a missed opportunity. They don't connect with the students like they could. Some do. But most are just feeling like, especially in science, they just feel the information speaks for itself. And there's not a whole lot of mentoring or kind of deep, close connection with the students. I think we do a better job of that here than other places. But what I'm trying to say is, I've kind of developed my passion or whatever, or my style, based on what I didn't really see. And I just kind of naturally thought that I could develop a persona that is very unusual in this world, but could work not only with the students here, but with the general population.
Right.
Ultimately, I hope that, different generations of folks know about this place and know the exciting geology going on here, not just 19-year-old students here.
And I think a lot of people know you or have heard of you because of your involvement in, whether it's, the geology department. People have heard of Nick on the Rocks, but also your involvement in the athletic department as well as a staff affiliate. I know that's how we kind of met for volleyball. So do you want to talk a little bit about that and kind of what you do there? Because I know you're at, besides volleyball, a lot of, athletics games as well.
I love sports. I always have. And so, yeah, just as a fan, I enjoy going up there. In fact, I think, was that you that was, I sit in my usual spot, and was that you? I wasn't sure. That came over with a little camera, and you got a good shot of that, big-time shot.
Buzzer beater. I did a story on Kiza. Yes, I was doing that for Central News Watch.
You were just in the right place at the right time for that. I actually moved because those guys were talking too much, but for your sound, I hope that worked out well.
It was good.
I do enjoy that, and Dennis Francois took over the athletic director position, must be 8 years ago by now, and got to know him because he would come to some of the geology talks I gave downtown. I'm like, oh, I like this guy. He's he's just coming down here for fun. Mm-hmm. And so he started this faculty mentor program, or a faculty affiliate or something like that. I don't think I do much for the volleyball team. I always feel bad about that, but at least I show up for the opening barbecue and eat a little bit.
That's the best part.
But I do enjoy the programs. Sometimes I feel like the athletes here, the student athletes, are the best of what's going on here on campus. They're so dedicated to their studies and their sports, and so I get a lot of positive feeling out of just being up there, really, and the volleyball program in particular I'm very fond of, including
whoop, whoop.
Yeah, seriously. So that's always been just really fun, but it all kind of works together. Again, I think I view the sports program is similar in a way to what I'm trying to do with the geology thing. We're just a little bit more public than other things on campus, and the university, all universities could do a much better job of promoting all the amazing things going on here. Most people off campus don't really have any idea what is going on up here, and that's not a slam right here at the university, but, gosh, missed opportunity after missed opportunity, just the most basic things. There'd be hundreds of people for any of these things if they actually knew what was going on. They just don't, and you know that.
I know that. All right, now we are going to get into my favorite part of our Wildcat One-on-Ones, and that is the question game. So the question game is basically, I'm going to ask you a few questions. The only rule is that you have to be 100% honest, and these are just kind of silly get-to-know-you questions. So you should be a little bit excited, maybe a little bit nervous, but there's no wrong answers. There's no wrong answers.
Is this a spin-off from your dating show or something like that?
I do like, using the question game to get to know people, but this is a kind of a different version.
Okay.
All right, in your opinion, what would be the coolest animal to scale up to the size of a horse?
Good Lord, I did not see that coming.
See, that's the best part of the question game.
Yes.
You never see it coming.
All right. Well, humble brag, I went to the Galapagos Islands once long ago. I have no interest in biology, really, but I was fascinated by those iguanas down there.
Oh, that would be scary.
It would be scary, but I just remember sitting this in stunned silence watching these things do their thing on this rocky beach, and I was like, I couldn't keep my eyes off of them. So it would be scary, but I think that's my answer.
Good answer. All right. Who would play you in the movie of your life? If they said, we want to do a movie about Nick Zentner.
Well, I guess I'll think of the most common comment that people make. You look like Tom Hanks. You remind me of Tom Hanks. I'm like,
Tom
well,
Hanks would be perfect.
All right. Well, people don't seem to hate Tom Hanks generally, so I guess that's not too bad.
All right, Tom Hanks it is. If you are stranded somewhere, where would you choose to be stranded based on geological features?
Oh, wow. Stranded. Well, let's not overthink it. Similar to the iguana answer, I don't know, have you been to Hawaii before, Laynie?
I have.
Have you been to the Big Island of Hawaii?
I have.
Have you been to Hawaii Volcanoes National Park where the orange stuff's coming out of the ground?
I don't think I have. I've been to the black sand beaches.
Black sand beaches, and you kind of hung out on the Kona side, maybe? Okay. Well, for a few years there, we would take Central students for Christmas break, and we'd go over to the Big Island, and the Kilauea eruption was happening at that time. So similar to the iguana thing, we would hike out at sunset to the place where the lava was flowing, and you're just literally sitting there. You got to be sitting in the right spot. If the wind's coming at you from off the active lava flow, you know, it's very uncomfortable. It's very hot. But if you can sit upwind, basically, it sounds, it feels, it smells like a campfire, but instead it's a river of orange lava. And just to watch that stuff, you don't even really know, is this a liquid? Is this a solid? What is this thing, you know, happening before me? You could easily lose 3 hours just sitting there watching that. And so, yeah, if I'm stuck one place, I'd probably get bored of it, but that was pretty mesmerizing.
Good answer.
Thank you.
That'd be a good one. All right, if Justin Bieber came and offered you $1 million if you can impress him with your dance moves, what dance move would you bust out?
Wow. Are you a Bieber believer?
I'm a believer.
Okay. So I'm trying, okay, let me clarify here. He's giving me money
To impress him
with
your dance moves.
So he's paying me to dance?
Yes, but only if you impress him.
Oh, I see. So what move am I doing?
Yes. Yeah, that's the question.
Well, he's a narcissist, isn't he? So I'm going to do exactly what he does. I'm going to talk exactly like he talks.
You're going to get the Bieber hair, the old Bieber hair.
Well, suddenly we're talking about something I have no idea about, but I think I know what his hair looks like at least. And he does the little shrug of the
With the purple hoodie.
Yeah. Okay. So that's exactly what I would do.
Perfect.
And I would cash in somehow.
You're just going to be $1 million richer. All right, and my favorite question. What would be your weapon of choice in a zombie apocalypse?
Not a fan of the genre. Don't even really know what we're talking about. I can guess. And therefore, my weapon of choice is probably not going to make sense because I don't even really know the basics of the zombie apocalypse world.
Like, you've never seen a zombie apocalypse movie?
I'm serious, I have not.
What?
I just spent the first 20 minutes talking about how real I am and all that, and now I have no idea. I'm talking to a real person, and I have no idea what she's talking about. So give me let me ask you, what are your 3 favorite weapon answers that you've gotten, or your 3 favorite weapon choices? And then I can cheat off of you.
Okay, so we've had multiple. Sometimes I twist this question into what would be your weapon of choice if you had to choose from what's in your bathroom. But I decided to broaden this question for you a little bit. I've gotten Clorox wipes.
Wow.
I've gotten a plunger. I've gotten a lengthy sword. I've gotten...
Yeah.
what else? I don't know.
Well, I'll tell you what. I've got an answer, and I'm going from the bathroom. Every time I go to the dentist, they say, "You haven't been flossing, have you?" And I'm like, "No, I haven't." And then they say, 6 months later, "Well, are you flossing now?" I'm like, "No, I'm not going to pretend." They say, "What is it about the floss that doesn't work for you?" I'm like, "I don't know. My hands are big. My fingers are big. It's just a pain in the ass to get this." So they gave me the little green pokey things, and so I'm working with those green pokey things anytime I'm watching something on television or YouTube. So I'm going to get 1,000 green pokey
flosser things.
tooth flosser things, and I'm just going to go get on that zombie.
Sounds perfect. That is the most creative answer I've heard.
Thank you.
I thought Clorox wipes was creative,
Well,
but I think
yeah.
that one takes the cake.
They got to be green, though.
Well, that is all we have for our Wildcat One-on-One. Thank you, Nick. For those who want to reach out on social media or watch any of your episodes of Nick on the Rocks, where could they find those? And then do you want to shout out your socials as well?
Thanks for this, Laynie. It's been fun. Yeah, I used to have trouble helping people find things, so I put them all in one place, nickzentner.com. So It's kind of pretentious, but all the videos of different forms, including the PBS stuff, including the social media stuff, is all kind of nickzentner.com. Zentner. Nick.
Perfect.
Yep.
Well, thank you so much. We will be back with more news Monday at 9 a.m.